The sky above Earth had not been blue for 300 days. Instead, a sickly green web stretched across the atmosphere, pulsing with alien energy. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the command center of what remained of Earth's defense headquarters, watching the screens that showed her dying world. "Power levels at 18%, said Dr. James Okoro, his voice tired. The scientist had not slept in 2 days. None of them had slept much since the Valkyrie arrived. Sarah looked at the main screen. The alien ships hung in orbit like dark angels of death, their energy net slowly draining Earth's core. The planet was dying, not quickly like a bomb or a plague, but slowly. The Valkyrie were patient. They had done this before to hundreds of worlds. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. 3 days, James said quietly. "Maybe 4. After that, the core collapse begins." Around the command center, people worked at their stations. Some were crying silently. Others stared at their screens with empty eyes. Everyone knew this was the end. The Valkyrie were known across the galaxy as collectors. They came to dying civilizations, wrapped them in their nets and harvested everything. Minerals, energy, water. They left nothing but dead rocks floating in space. Earth had tried to fight. Every nation had launched their weapons. Nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, everything humanity had built in 3 centuries of space development. The Valkyrie shields had not even flickered. It was like throwing stones at a mountain. Then Earth had tried to call for help. They sent messages to every nearby star system begging for aid. Some civilizations ignored them. Others sent back simple messages saying they could not help. A few said they were sorry, but fighting the Valkyrie was suicide. No one was coming to save humanity. "Commander," a young voice called out. Maya Rodriguez, barely 22 years old, waved from her station. "The quantum beacon is ready." Sarah walked over to Maya's workstation. On the screen, complex equations scrolled past. This was humanity's last desperate plan. If no one nearby would help, maybe someone far away would listen. "Explain it to me again," Sarah said, putting her hand on Maya's shoulder. Simply. Maya took a deep breath. "Normal distress signals travel at light speed. They take years to reach distant stars. But quantum signals are different. They slip through dimensions, through the gaps in space itself. This beacon will reach further than any message we have ever sent." "How much further?" Sarah asked. "We don't know," James said, walking over to join them. "In theory, it could reach the deep voids." Sarah felt a chill. Everyone knew the stories about the deep voids. They were regions of space where reality worked differently, where sensors showed nothing but emptiness, yet strange things happened. Ships that went too close reported seeing impossible things. Lights that moved in ways that broke physics. Voices in the quantum static. Most scientists said the deep voids were just natural phenomena, strange gravity wells or dimensional weak points. But there were legends, old stories passed down from ancient alien civilizations. They spoke of beings that lived in those voids, creatures so old and powerful that they had left the physical universe behind. "You think something lives out there?" Sarah asked. James shrugged. "I think we have nothing to lose by trying. If we are going to die anyway, why not throw a message into the darkness and hope someone hears it?" Sarah looked around the command center. Through the windows, she could see the city below. People were in the streets, not rioting or running. They were together, families holding each other, musicians playing songs, priests and teachers talking to crowds. Humanity was facing the end with dignity. "Do it," Sarah said. "Launch the beacon." Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Encoding our message now. I am including everything. Our history, our culture, our location. If anyone finds this, they will know we existed. They will know we tried." "What should the message say?" James asked. Sarah thought for a moment. Then she spoke clearly, and Maya typed her words into the system. "This is Earth, this is humanity. We are 3 billion souls facing extinction. We do not know if anyone will hear this. We do not know if anyone cares. But we existed, we loved, we built. We dreamed of stars and reached them. If you can hear this, please remember us. Please do not let this happen to others." Tears rolled down Maya's cheeks as she finished typing. Message encoded. "Ready to launch. How much power will it take?" Sarah asked. "Everything we have left," James said quietly. "Once we launch this, the command center goes dark. No shields, no weapons, nothing." Sarah looked at her team. Young and old, they all nodded. This was their choice. Their last act of defiance. If humanity was going to die, they would scream into the void first. "Launch the beacon," Sarah ordered. Maya pressed the final key. The command center lights flickered and died. Emergency red lights came on, casting everything in a bloody glow. Through the windows, Sarah saw the city below go dark too. All across Earth, every last bit of power was flowing into the quantum transmitter hidden beneath the Himalayas. Then the sky lit up. A beam of pure white light shot from Earth's surface straight up through the Velkari net. The alien web sparked and sizzled where the beam touched it, but the message punched through. Sarah watched on the emergency screens as the quantum beacon tore through dimensions, reaching further and further from Earth. It passed Mars in microseconds. It raced past Jupiter and Saturn, leaving the solar system behind. It dove into the darkness between stars, moving in ways that normal physics could not explain. The beam split and split again, spreading through reality like cracks in glass, and then it reached the deep voids. On the emergency screen, Sarah saw the impossible. The quantum signal, which should have just passed through empty space, stopped. It did not fade or weaken. It stopped as if something had caught it, held it, as if something was listening. "My God," James whispered. "Something is out there." The screens went completely dead. The red emergency lights faded. The command center fell into total darkness. Outside, the Velkari ships moved closer, preparing for their final harvest. Sarah stood in the dark, holding Maya's hand on one side and James's on the other. "We did it," she said softly. "We were heard." In the deep voids and dimensions beyond human understanding, ancient minds stirred. The message from Earth burned in their consciousness like a tiny, bright flame. It had been so long since they had heard a voice from the physical universe, so long since they had cared about the struggles of young species. But this message was different. This cry for help carried something the ancient ones had forgotten. Something that made them pause and truly listen. Hope. And in the darkness between dimensions, the most powerful entities in existence began to move. The threshold existed between all things. It was not a place in the normal sense. It had no stars, no planets, no matter at all. It was the space between dimensions, where reality grew thin and thoughts became more real than atoms. Here the ancient ones lived. They had no bodies anymore. They had given up physical form millions of years ago, ascending to pure consciousness. They were vast minds floating in the void, beings of thought and energy so old that they remembered when the universe was young. The quantum message from Earth crashed into the threshold like a stone thrown into still water. The ancient ones, who had been silent and separate for eons, suddenly snapped to awareness. "What is this?" The thought echoed through the void, belonging to all and none. A signal. From the material universe. The thoughts came from the Void Singer, a consciousness that had once been a species of beings who lived in the hearts of dying stars. How long has it been since we heard such a thing? This thought carried curiosity. It came from the memory collective, countless minds that had merged together over millions of years. "Too long," came another voice. This one was different, warmer. It belonged to the Lumini, beings who had once been creatures of pure light. We stopped listening. We left them behind, and with good reason. The Void Singer's thoughts were cold. They destroy themselves. They always do. War, greed, hatred. We watched it happen 1,000 times. Why should we care about one more dying species? The message from Earth hung in the threshold, a small, bright thing full of data and emotion. The ancient ones examined it, pulling apart its quantum structure to see what information it contained. They saw Earth. They saw humanity. They saw everything. The history of humanity unfolded before the ancient ones like a story told at incredible speed. They saw early humans huddling around fires telling stories. They saw the first cities rise, kingdoms form, and empires fall. They saw humans fighting each other in terrible wars, millions dying. They saw plagues that killed half the population. They saw humans polluting their own world, nearly destroying it, you see? The Void Singer broadcast its thoughts to all the others. They are like all the rest, violent, destructive, let them die, but wait. The memory collective's thought was uncertain. Look closer. Something is different. The ancient ones looked closer. They saw humanity after the wars, rebuilding. They saw humans changing, learning. They saw the moment when humanity almost destroyed itself with nuclear weapons. And then the moment when they chose not to. They saw humans healing their planet, reaching into space, learning to work together. They are only 300,000 years old, the Lumine observed. Just children, by the standards of the cosmos. Most species do not even survive their first million years. Exactly, the Void Singer replied. They are too young, too violent, too dangerous. We have seen this pattern before. Young species that show promise then destroy themselves or become conquerors. Better to let nature take its course. But the Lumini was not convinced. Look at them now. Look at how they face the end. The Ancient Ones focused their attention on present-day Earth. They saw the Velkari net draining the planet. They saw the darkness, the fear, the certain death approaching. And they saw how humanity responded. There was no mass panic, no riots, no chaos. People were afraid, yes, but they stayed together. Parents held their children and told them stories about better days. Doctors worked in hospitals caring for the sick, even though everyone would be dead in days. Teachers gathered students and taught them, so their last moments would be filled with learning. Musicians played in the streets, giving beauty to the darkness. This is strange, the memory collective thought. Most species collapse into violence when facing extinction. These humans, they are helping each other. It means nothing, the Void Singer insisted. Sentiment before death. It changes nothing. But the Lumini had found something else in the quantum message, a single word that humanity had embedded at the core of their signal. A concept that was uniquely human. Hope. The word hung in the threshold. The Ancient Ones examined it from every angle, trying to understand. Hope was not common in the universe. Most species had survival instinct. They had fear and aggression and the will to live. But hope was different. Hope was the belief that things could be better, even when all evidence said otherwise. They have faced extinction before. The Lumini shared its discoveries with the others. Ice ages, plagues, wars. Every time they survived by refusing to give up. They adapted. They changed. They hoped for tomorrow. False optimism, the Void Singer countered. It will not save them from the Velkari. Perhaps not, the Lumini agreed. But it makes them interesting. How long has it been since we found something interesting? There was silence in the threshold. The Ancient Ones had to admit the truth. It had been millions of years since anything had surprised them. They had seen everything, experienced everything. They had grown tired of the physical universe and its endless cycles of birth and death. But this message from Earth, this desperate cry for help, carried something they had not felt in a very long time. Something that made them curious again. We should observe them, the Lumini suggested. Before the Velkari finish their harvest, we should send someone to watch. To truly see what these humans are. Waste of time, the Void Singer protested. But other Ancient Ones were joining the Lumini's side. The Memory Collective was curious. The Star Shepherds, beings who had once tended to infant galaxies, wanted to see. The Time Weavers, who existed partially outside of linear time, were interested. Very well, the Void Singer finally agreed. Send an observer. Watch them die. But do not interfere. We abandoned the physical universe long ago. That decision should not be reversed for one young species. The Ancient Ones came together, merging their consciousness briefly to create something new. They pulled matter and energy from the dimensions around them, weaving it together with pure thought. Slowly, a new form took shape. Not quite physical, not quite pure consciousness. Something in between. The observer opened its newly formed eyes. It was called Ethon, a name meaning eternal. It had been given a mission, to watch humanity in its final hours and report back to the Council. Go, the Lumini commanded gently. See what they truly are. See if we were right to abandon the physical universe or if something has changed. Ethon did not speak. It simply nodded and began to move. The threshold opened before it, a doorway back to the material universe. Ethon slipped through the gap, traveling across dimensions faster than light could move. In seconds, Ethon crossed the distance between the deep voids and Earth's solar system. It materialized in the upper atmosphere of the dying planet, invisible to human sensors. Below, it could see the Velkari ships and their terrible net. It could see the cities going dark as power failed. It could see humanity facing its end. Ethon settled in to watch, expecting to see what the Void Singer predicted: chaos, violence, the ugly death of another young species. But what Ethon actually saw would change everything. In the threshold, the Ancient Ones waited. Some were curious. Some were indifferent. None of them expected what was about to happen. None of them expected that humanity would teach them something they had forgotten. None of them expected that watching one young species die would make them want to live again. Ethan floated high above Earth, invisible and silent. From this height, it could see everything. The Valkyrie ships in orbit. The green energy net that wrapped around the planet. The cities below, dark and dying. This was what Ethan expected to see. Death, just like countless other worlds. But then Ethan looked closer and saw something unexpected. In the streets of Tokyo, an old woman sat with a group of children. She was telling them a story, her hands moving as she spoke. The children listened with wide eyes, even though they knew they would not live to see tomorrow. When the story ended, the children clapped and asked for another one. In New York, doctors worked in a hospital that had no power. They used flashlights and worked by candlelight, treating patients who could not be saved. When Ethan scanned their minds, expecting to find despair, it found determination instead. The doctors were not working because they thought they could save everyone. They worked because caring for others was who they were. In Mumbai, a massive crowd had gathered in the city center. They were not rioting. They were singing. Thousands of voices joined together in songs from every culture, every language. Hindu hymns mixed with Christian gospels, mixed with Muslim prayers, mixed with songs that had no religion at all. They sang because it made them feel less alone in the dark. Ethan was confused. This was not how species behaved during extinction. Where was the violence? Where was the panic? The observer descended lower, moving through the city streets. It watched a mother holding her daughter, rocking her gently. The child was crying. "I am scared, Mama," the little girl said. "I know, sweetie," the mother replied. "I am scared too. Will it hurt?" "I do not think so. I think we will just go to sleep." "Will we be together?" "Always," the mother promised, kissing her daughter's head. "Nothing can separate us." Not even this. Ethan felt something strange. It did not understand what. The Ancient Ones had removed most emotions when they ascended, keeping only curiosity and logic. But watching this mother and child made something stir in Ethan's consciousness, something it could not name. The observer moved on, searching for understanding. It found Dr. James Okoro in an underground laboratory. The scientist was still working, surrounded by equipment that barely had power. Maya Rodriguez was with him, along with a dozen other researchers. "It is impossible," one of them said, staring at equations on a screen. "The math does not work. We would need power equal to a star." "Then we find a way," James replied firmly. "We have 30 hours. We do not give up." "James," Maya said gently, "maybe we should spend these last hours with our families." James looked at his team. His eyes were red from exhaustion and tears. "You all should go. Be with your loved ones. But I am staying. Because even if it is impossible, even if we fail, I need to try. That is what humans do. We try. No one left." They all stayed, working on an impossible solution to an impossible problem. Ethan scanned their work. They were trying to build a weapon that could break through the Valkyrie shields. The science was actually sound, but they were right about one thing. They would need impossible amounts of power. Power they did not have. Why are they trying? Ethan wondered. They know it is hopeless. Why waste their final hours on something that cannot work? The observer decided to look deeper. It extended its consciousness into the quantum field around Earth, reading the patterns of human thought. What it found shocked it. Hope, not just in one or two humans, in all of them. Even the ones who were crying, even the ones who were afraid. Buried deep in every human mind was this strange, stubborn thing called hope. The belief that things could get better. The refusal to accept that the end was truly the end. Ethan searched its ancient memories, trying to understand. It had observed thousands of species over millions of years. Most had survival instinct. When faced with danger, they fought or fled. When faced with certain death, they accepted it or went mad with fear. But humans were different. They had survival instinct too, but they had something else. Something that let them look at impossible odds and say, "Not yet." Something that let them keep trying when trying made no logical sense. Ethan needed to understand where this came from. It dove deep into human history, examining their evolution. Humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them constantly. No claws, no fangs, no armor or venom. Physically, they were weak. Dozens of predators could kill them easily, but humans had survived by working together, by teaching each other, by refusing to give up. When the ice ages came and most species went extinct, humans adapted. They made fire and clothes and shelters. When disease killed millions, they learned medicine. When they fought terrible wars, they eventually learned peace. Every time extinction came for humanity, humans said, no. And somehow, impossibly, they survived. Ethan watched Maya Rodriguez at her station. She had finished helping Dr. Okoro with his equations. Now she was doing something else. She was recording a message. "My name is Maya Rodriguez," she said to the camera. "If anyone finds this, if somehow our world survives, or if aliens discover our remains, I want you to know who we were. We were humanity. We were artists and scientists, mothers and children, dreamers and builders. We were not perfect. We made mistakes. We hurt each other sometimes. But we also loved. We also hoped. We reached for the stars because we believed there was something better out there. We believed in tomorrow." Tears rolled down Maya's face, but she kept talking. "If we die today, please remember us. Please learn from our mistakes. But also learn from our hope. Because hope is what made us human. Hope is what made us reach beyond ourselves. And even here at the end, we still hope. We hope our message reached someone. We hope you will be better than us. We hope the universe is kind." Ethan felt that strange stirring again, stronger this time. The observer realized what it was feeling. Emotion. Something it thought it had left behind when it ascended. The observer returned to the command center where Commander Sarah Chen stood. She was looking at a screen that showed Earth from space. The Valkyrie ships were moving into position for the final harvest. "Commander," one of her officers said, "maybe we should go home. Spend the last hours with our families." Sarah shook her head. "This is my post. I will stay here until the end. But you should all go. Be with the people you love. And leave you alone?" The officer smiled sadly. "No, ma'am. We are your family too. We stay together." Sarah looked around at her crew. She nodded, unable to speak past the tears. Ethan realized something profound. Humans were not brave because they did not feel fear. They were brave because they felt fear and acted anyway. They were not strong because they could not be hurt. They were strong because they could be hurt and still chose to help each other. This was not just survival instinct. This was something higher. This was choice. Conscious, deliberate choice to be better than their fears told them to be. The observer needed to report this to the council immediately. It prepared to send a message back to the threshold, compressing everything it had learned into a quantum transmission. But then, Dr. Okoro shouted from his laboratory, "We did it." "The weapon works!" Ethan focused on the underground lab. James was staring at his screen in disbelief. "It actually works. The math, it works. How much power does it need?" Maya asked. James's face fell. "Everything. We would need to collapse our sun into a singularity. It would destroy the Valkyrie fleet, but it would also destroy Earth and everything in the solar system." Silence filled the lab. Then Maya spoke quietly. "At least they would not win. At least we would take them with us." The team looked at each other. Slowly they began to nod. If humanity had to die, they would not die quietly. They would fight to the very end. Ethan watched in amazement. These humans would destroy themselves just to hurt their killers. Not for gain, not for survival, for pride, for defiance, to prove they could not be harvested like animals. The observer sent its message to the threshold. 3 simple words burning with urgency. You must see this. In the threshold, the Ancient Ones received Ethan's urgent message. The observer had sent more than words. It had sent memories, experiences, everything it had witnessed. The Ancient Ones absorbed it all in an instant. Impossible, the Void Singer broadcast. They face extinction with dignity. They work on impossible solutions. They choose defiance over despair. This cannot be. It is real, the Lumine replied. Ethan does not lie. We must see for ourselves. The memory collective stirred. How long has it been since we entered the physical universe? 12 million years, the Time Weavers answered. Since the day we decided that material existence held nothing more for us to learn. Perhaps we were wrong, the Lumini thought softly. Perhaps these humans have something to teach us after all. What could they possibly teach us? The Void Singer was angry now. We are billions of years old. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have watched stars being born and die. We have transcended mortality itself. What could these children, barely 300,000 years old, possibly teach us? The Lumini did not argue. Instead, it simply shared another of Ethan's memories. The mother holding her daughter. The doctors working by candlelight. Maya recording her message. Dr. Okoro refusing to give up. Humans facing the end with love and hope and courage. The Ancient Ones fell silent. Even the Void Singer had no response. "We must go," the Star Shepherds declared. "These beings deserve to be witnessed. If they die, let them die knowing someone saw what they truly were." The decision was made. For the first time in 12 million years, the Ancient Ones would leave the threshold. They would take physical form and enter the material universe. They would go to Earth. The threshold began to tear open above Earth's solar system. The fabric of reality itself ripped apart as the Ancient Ones pushed through. Space twisted and warped. Gravity went wild. Every sensor on every ship for 1 billion miles screamed warnings as something impossible happened. The Ancient Ones emerged. They were vast. Beings of pure energy taking physical form, each one the size of a moon. The luminae appeared as creatures of golden light, too bright to look at directly. The Void Singer materialized as a darkness that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The Memory Collective came through as a web of silver threads connecting thousands of points of light. More and more Ancient Ones appeared until dozens of cosmic entities filled the space around Earth. On the Velkari flagship, Commander Thresh watched his screens in absolute terror. Every Velkari legend, every myth from their ancient past spoke of the god forms, beings of impossible power who had shaped the early universe. The Velkari had always assumed these were just stories. Now Thresh knew the truth. "Shut down the harvesting net," Thresh ordered, his voice shaking. "Shut down everything." "Go to minimal power, Commander," his second officer asked in confusion. "Do it now," Thresh screamed. "If they notice us, if they think we are a threat, they could erase our entire civilization with a thought." The Velkari ships went dark and silent, trying to become invisible. But it was too late. The Ancient Ones had seen them. On Earth, Commander Sarah Chen stared at her screens in shock. The green energy net around Earth had flickered and dimmed as the Velkari pulled back their power. Through the windows of the command center, she could see lights in the sky. "Massive, impossible lights. What are they?" someone whispered. "The beacon worked," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "Someone came. Someone heard us." Dr. Okoro ran into the command center from his lab. "The power readings are impossible. Those things in orbit, they are not ships. They are something else. Something alive." Sarah activated the communication system. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth. We are the ones who sent the distress call. Are you here to help us?" There was no answer. The Ancient Ones were not communicating. They were watching, judging, deciding. In the threshold, which still existed as a connection between the Ancient Ones, a debate raged. "We should destroy the Velkari," the Star Shepherds thought. "They have done this to hundreds of worlds. They must be stopped." "No," the Void Singer argued. "We came to observe, not to interfere. The material universe must run its own course. Then what is the point of coming here?" The Memory Collective was frustrated. "We watch these humans die and learn nothing except that we were right to leave in the first place. We should test them," the Lumini suggested. "Before we decide anything, we should see what they truly are. Not just their courage in facing death, but their character in facing choice." The Ancient Ones agreed. They would test humanity. They would see what these young beings were really made of. Sarah Chen was about to try communicating again when Dr. Okoro burst back into the command center. "Sarah, we have a problem. The weapon is armed. Someone activated it." "What?" Sarah ran to follow him back to the lab. In the underground laboratory, the weapon sat ready. Its countdown showed 10 minutes. Dr. Okoro tried to shut it down, but the system was locked. "Who did this?" Sarah demanded. "I did," said a young scientist named Tom Chen, no relation to Sarah. He looked calm, almost peaceful. "They came to watch us die. Those beings up there, they have the power to save us. I can see it in the readings. But they are just watching. So we will show them. If they will not save us, then we will destroy the Velkari ourselves. We will die, but we will die fighting." "You cannot," Sarah said. "This will destroy everything. Our whole solar system." "I know," Tom replied. "But at least the Velkari will not win. At least we will prove we are not sheep to be slaughtered." Sarah's hand moved toward the emergency override, but Tom had disabled it. There was no way to stop the countdown now. Above Earth, the Ancient Ones saw what was happening. They watched the humans prepare to destroy themselves just to hurt their enemies. It was the ultimate act of defiance. And then something happened that changed everything. Sarah Chen activated the communication system one more time, but this time she was not asking for help. She spoke to the Ancient Ones with the certainty that they were listening. I do not know what you are, Sarah said. I do not know why you came. But I know you are watching. I know you are judging us. So let me tell you who we are. We are humanity. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We are afraid. But we do not give up. We do not accept that death is inevitable, or that might makes right. We believe in tomorrow even when today is darkness. She paused, looking at the screen showing the cosmic beings. I know we are about to destroy ourselves. One of our own people has chosen vengeance over survival. Maybe that makes us barbaric. Maybe that makes us unworthy. But I want you to know something. If I could, I would choose differently. Not because I am afraid to die, but because mercy is stronger than vengeance. Because forgiveness is harder than hate. Because the universe does not need more violence. The countdown reached 5 minutes. Tom stood by his weapon, ready to die. Sarah looked directly at the nearest ancient one, the golden being called Lumine. We do not ask you to save us. We ask that you remember us. Remember that we chose hope over despair. Remember that we loved each other until the end. And please, if you have the power, stop this from happening to others. Do not let the Velkari harvest any more worlds. Not for us. For all the civilizations that will come after us. The countdown reached 3 minutes. Sarah closed her eyes, accepting what was coming. Her last thoughts were not of herself, but of all the children who would never grow up. All the dreams that would never be fulfilled. Then a voice filled the command center. It was vast and warm and ancient. It was the Lumini speaking for the first time in millions of years. Stop! The weapon powered down instantly. The countdown froze. Tom fell to his knees, staring at his controls in shock. You have proven enough, the Lumini's voice continued. Your courage, your defiance, your hope, but most of all your mercy. At the end of all things, you chose not vengeance but wisdom. You chose to speak of forgiveness even in the face of death. The other ancient ones manifested around Earth, their presence filling the sky. The Velkari net dissolved like morning mist. The alien ships were frozen in place, trapped in bubbles of stopped time. Commander Sarah Chen, the Lumini said, we have a question for you. The Velkari tried to destroy you. They have destroyed hundreds of other worlds. What punishment do they deserve? Sarah looked at her crew. She looked at Maya, at Dr. Okoro, at all the people who had stayed at their posts even in the face of death. Then she gave an answer that would echo across the galaxy for eons to come. Teach them, Sarah said simply. Show them what they could become instead. 3 months had passed since the day Earth nearly died. The planet had changed in ways both visible and invisible. The sky was blue again, cleaned by technology the ancient ones had provided. But they had been careful. They did not solve all of humanity's problems. They did not give humans everything they needed. Instead, they gave tools and knowledge, letting humanity rebuild on their own. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the balcony of the rebuilt command center, looking out over the city. Below, people walked the streets again. Children played. Markets buzzed with activity. Life had returned to Earth, but it was different now. Everyone who had faced the end together carried that memory. They had looked into the darkness and chosen hope. That changed people. Commander, Maya Rodriguez approached, carrying a data tablet. She was no longer just a communications officer. She was now humanity's ambassador to the wider galaxy. The delegation from Proxima is here. They want to speak with you, Sarah smiled. Another one? That is the 5th this week. They all want the same thing, Maya said. They want to know how we did it. Sarah followed Maya inside to the meeting room. 3 aliens waited there. Tall beings with blue skin and large eyes. They were from Proxima Centauri, humanity's closest stellar neighbors. They looked nervous. Sarah sat down across from them. Welcome to Earth, how can we help you? The lead Proximian, whose name translated roughly to Swift River, leaned forward. Commander Chen, our people have existed for 3 million years. We have seen countless civilizations rise and fall, but we have never seen anything like what happened here. You faced certain extinction, and instead of violence or despair, you showed mercy to your enemies. We must understand how. Sarah thought about her answer carefully. She had been asked this question many times now, by many different species. It is not easy, she said finally. Mercy is harder than revenge. Forgiveness is more difficult than hate. But we believe it is the only way forward. If we had destroyed the Velkari, we would have become like them. We would have let our fear and anger make us into monsters. But they tried to kill you all. Another Proximian said. How can you forgive that? We have not forgotten what they did, Sarah replied. We will never forget. But we also remember who we are. We are humans. We believe that people can change. That tomorrow can be better than today. That giving someone a second chance is not weakness but strength. The Proximians looked at each other confused. Their culture was built on justice and balance. Crime demanded punishment. The concept of mercy was foreign to them. Maya spoke up. Let me tell you a story. 100 years ago, my great-grandfather was a soldier. He fought in the water wars when nations battled over resources. He did terrible things. He killed people. By the logic of pure justice, he should have been punished forever. But instead, he was given a second chance. He dedicated the rest of his life to building water purification systems for poor communities. He saved more lives than he took. If we had only punished him, all those people he saved would have died. So you believe anyone can be redeemed? Swift River asked. Not anyone, Sarah said honestly. Some people choose evil and will not change. But most people are not truly evil. They are afraid or hurt or taught the wrong things. If we give them a chance to be better, many will take it. She gestured to a screen on the wall. Let me show you something. The screen displayed a ship in orbit. It was Velkarian design, but modified. This is the redemption, Sarah explained. It is crewed by Velkari who went through the threshold. The Ancient Ones showed them the memories of every being they had ever harvested. They felt the pain, the fear, the loss. It changed them. The screen showed Velkari workers helping to repair a space station. Now they travel the galaxy helping civilizations that are struggling. They use their technology to heal instead of harm. They are not the same beings who tried to destroy us. Swift River watched the screen in silence. Finally, he spoke. My people sent me here because we face a threat. Pirates from the Outer Rim attack our colonies. We have always responded with military force, but the violence only grows worse. You are saying we should try mercy instead? I'm saying you should try understanding, Sarah replied. Why do they attack? Are they desperate? Are they angry about something? Violence is sometimes necessary to defend yourself. But if you only use violence, you will never solve the real problem. The Proximians stayed for 3 more hours asking questions. When they finally left, Swift River bowed to Sarah, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. You have given us much to think about. Perhaps we have been solving our problems the wrong way. After they left, Maya turned to Sarah. Do you think they will really change? I do not know, Sarah admitted. But we planted a seed. That is all we can do. Across the city, in a research facility, Dr. James Okoro worked with a team that included both humans and aliens. They were studying the quantum technology that had allowed Earth's message to reach the Ancient Ones. But more than that, they were sharing knowledge. Every alien who came to Earth brought their own science, their own understanding, and humans shared everything they knew in return. This is remarkable, said Okoro's assistant, an insect-like being from the Hive Collective. You humans discover new things so quickly. My people have been spacefaring for 1,000,000 years, but our technology has barely changed in the last 100,000. You have been in space for 300 years and you constantly innovate. James laughed. We have to. We are weak compared to most species. No natural weapons, fragile bodies, short lifespans. We survive by being creative, by thinking of new solutions to old problems. Is that why you teach us about hope? The alien asked. Because you need it to survive? James stopped working and looked at his colleague. Yes, hope is our greatest tool. When things seem impossible, hope lets us keep trying. It is the belief that we can make things better if we just work hard enough, think creatively enough, refuse to give up. On the other side of the facility, Maya was recording another message. But this one was different from her desperate recording 3 months ago. This one was full of joy. My name is Maya Rodriguez, and I am speaking to anyone out there who might hear this. 3 months ago, I recorded a message thinking it would be our last. I told you about humanity's hope, even in the face of death. Today, I am here to tell you that hope was not wasted. We survived, and now we want to share what we learned. She smiled at the camera. If you are out there facing darkness, know this. You are not alone. We heard your cry, just as the Ancient Ones heard ours, and we are coming. Not with weapons or conquest, but with friendship and help, because that is what humanity does. We reach out, we help, we hope. The message was broadcast across quantum channels, reaching further than any normal transmission could go. In the weeks that followed, responses came back. Dozens of them. Civilizations asking for help. Species sharing their own stories. The galaxy was waking up to something new. Above Earth, Ethan remained. The observer had chosen not to return to the threshold. It found something on Earth that was more interesting than eternal peace in the void. It found purpose. Sarah visited Ethan regularly. The Ancient One had taken a more solid form, appearing as a humanoid figure made of soft golden light. They stood together on the observation deck looking at Earth below. "Do you regret leaving the threshold?" Sarah asked. "No," Ethan replied, its voice like music. "I have learned more in 3 months with humanity than in millions of years in the void. You have taught me something I had forgotten." "What is that?" "That life has meaning. Not because it lasts forever, but because it does not. You humans have such short lives, yet you fill them with so much meaning. You love knowing you will lose. You build knowing it will crumble. You hope knowing you might fail. That is not foolishness. That is courage," Sarah smiled. "Will others come? Other ancient ones?" "Some already have," Ethan said. "The Lumini walks among you disguised as a teacher. The Memory Collective has begun recording human history. Even the Void Singer is curious, though it will not admit it. You have reminded us why existence matters." Weeks turned into months. Earth became a hub of cultural exchange. Species from across the galaxy came to learn about hope, creativity, and the strange human idea that tomorrow could be better than today. Some came skeptical and left confused. Others came curious and left changed. The Velkari, who had been transformed by their experience in the threshold, became humanity's strongest advocates. They traveled to worlds facing the same kind of extinction Earth had faced and worked to prevent it. Commander Thresh, the Velkari who had led the attack on Earth, now spent his days teaching others about the cost of violence. One day, Sarah received a message that made her cry with joy. It was from a distant system, a civilization that had been facing a plague. They had learned about humanity and decided to try hope instead of despair. They had found a cure. Hundreds of millions of lives were saved. "This is what we are now," Sarah said to Maya as they watched the news. "Not conquerors, not warriors. We are teachers. We are hope bringers. The galaxy is changing because of us," Maya said in wonder. "Species that were enemies are talking. Civilizations that had given up are trying again. All because we refused to give up 6 months after the day Earth nearly died." The Galactic Assembly held a special session.